blinking.
All right, could we please stand for the pledge? Thank you. All right, we'll start with public comment. Rona Klopman.
I'm short. The microphone down. Good evening, Board. I watch you every week. Sorry I wasn't here 2 weeks ago, but we have Citizens Advisory meeting on the same night, but I watch you all the time. So I'm here for the sign that's on Deerfield, and I go walking on that beach. That's my beach. And I have printed out, I'd like to, I don't know if you want me to pass it to Rick or, but the sign is enormous. When you walk down that walkway, you're looking right at it. And the house that you see on the left is, I believe, the house where the fellow died and gave money to Ocean Rescue for a memorial. When I was president of the association, I have these photos. When the woman died on our beach, and I was president, I myself put up that sign. So it's not the message. The message is something I really, truly believe in. What I don't believe in, and I have pictures of the walkways, which has at each of the walkways a sign about the riptides, because you walk up the walkway, and there's the sign right on our bulletin boards. And I feel that you're setting a precedent by allowing this enormous sign to be right smack on the beach, although it doesn't have the name of the person who died. It's still a memorial. You're still going to talk about it. I watched John Ryan Jr. talk about it 2 weeks ago, and I think the message is a good one. I can understand why he did that. Those signs are very, very expensive, but I'm worried about the precedent, because somebody else dies in a house near that beach and wants to put up a memorial sign, they're going to do it. And it's not, you know, I think Pat said 2 weeks ago, what you do here at the trustee board has a consequence for every other board in this town. I know when benches are given to the town, they have to do a resolution. They have to pass the resolution, and then they determine where the sign goes. And it wasn't, I know that the process was not done correctly, so I'm bringing it back to this board, because I think there probably can be a better place for that sign than right on the beach. It is a trustee beach, and I'm concerned about that. I see, even though the new president, who's not here all the time, sent you an email, that doesn't mean that it belongs there on the beach. And, you know, he doesn't live here. He's here on weekends. You have a house here. It's different when you live here and you walk the beaches every day. You know, you see this big, gigantic sign. So I would appreciate this board doing something that's appropriate and not setting a precedent for signs on the beach. Thank you.
Is your issue, Rona, more that it's too large or not in a good spot?
It's not. It's right in the middle of the beach.
The placement.
I walkway, and there's this.
Just making sure it's the placement, not the size.
It looks like it's at the base of the dune.
Yeah, right. It's on your property.
But
It's on
Rona,
property.
here's something I want to bring up. You did a great job putting signs at the end of the boardwalk. However, the public can't park along Marine Boulevard. Those signs aren't helping anybody walking down the beach. So
Which signs?
the signs that you put up about
Yeah, but the thing is that they are at every walkway that we own, and that people, our community has 350 homes. So when those houses are rented in the summer, every one of the people who live there have to go up the walkway.
But what about the person walking down the beach? Or somebody who's driving their truck on the beach during, after hours and decides to go for a swim?
They certainly can go for a swim, but,
right, but
but you know what? You
that's a
have
hot spot
the
there.
town, but the town has it on Napeag Lane. That's a town beach. There's nothing there.
It's all town beach.
All right, but Napeag Lane is where the residents go to park and walk down the beach. Wouldn't you think they should see that first? I mean, that sign should be at a place where a lot of people congregate, as you have just said. It makes more sense to put it in an area where more people will see it, and in a parking lot where there's signs about beach fires and such. You know, it makes, it's not the message. The message is a good
I
one.
understand that, but that is...
Well, you're opening the door for precedent.
But
you know?
that's an area that historically has tremendous riptides. It's
Napeag is-
that's how the
Napeag is
woman.
too.
That's how the woman.
I know, I was
backwater.
on the beach when she died.
And they were
Yeah.
there. They're there every year. There's the riptide.
She
So it's-
actually, I was there when it happened.
Mm-hmm.
She actually was wading in. She was not a good swimmer. And she was standing there.
Mm-hmm.
And the riptide started. And really, she was a very minute, small,
Mm-hmm.
short woman. And it really pulled her in and under, and she flipped.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what broke her neck. So, I don't think it would have,
It's-
a sign would have made any difference there, unfortunately. Look, a lot of people don't read anyway, so,
No, but if it's there for someone to read.
but you're putting it on one small beach, We've got a big stretch of beach in our area, and you've got one sign. I mean, I don't know if there's a sign on Atlantic. I don't know if there's a sign on Indian Wells. They get a lot of traffic.
There probably should be.
There probably should be.
Yeah, it's an
And I
important
think
message.
Ocean Rescue could have done that, put signs along all of the beaches, and particularly Napeag, which doesn't have a lifeguard. I mean, that to me is...
They may continue trying to pursue this campaign
Yeah.
with more signage.
I think the signage all along the beaches are going to be a much bigger issue. And they should have these signs every place they have one of those numbered locations. They should,
Well, it shouldn't be that big.
no,
Well, we
I mean,
agreed
that's a
that,
12-foot sign.
we agreed that this went to, we were going to look at the whole situation. All of the signs, all of the don't do's.
all of the signs at the road ends have to be placed
Napeag
someplace
has a
where
lot
they're,
of signs,
where
I
they're
think.
just not so
Yeah, they should
unsightly.
be consolidated so it's not,
Yeah.
so it doesn't block the view.
You
Well,
can't
this one
walk any
blocks you
place
through
without
the
seeing
minute
the
you walk
sign.
down. I went like, whoa.
I personally haven't seen it in person, and the picture, I can see the size. It's hard to see how it fits into the surrounding landscape there. I don't know has anyone else here been there and seen it in person?
Can't park down there.
Yes, you can park down.
Is it still there now?
No,
Oh,
wait,
yeah,
wait,
it's
you
still
can
up.
park down
Yeah.
there.
When do they intend to take it
You
down?
can.
Where?
Does your
I think it was around
According to the
president
code.
of your association know?
The president of the
you seen it?
association is a weekender.
One of us should go take a look in person. And
I believe it
So,
was
Oh,
to
you
come down
go
at
at
the
the
end of
road.
summer.
Well, take
Yeah,
your
no,
concerns under
What's that?
I
advisement.
believe it was to come
You
down.
can't see them because
what
of
is
the
supposed to
trespassers.
happen and what happens is two separate things.
Well, I think,
Well, thank you,
I think
Ronna.
it will come down at the end of the season, and then they'll give us an opportunity to
That's
take
the only
another.
thing, you can't use the boardwalk.
So far, I mean...
No, it's supposed to come down,
But so far, nothing's been taken away, and usually it's gone by now. The end of September, it's,
Yeah.
gone, but
I can
nobody's
reach out to-
around, to do it.
I can reach out to Ocean Rescue and see what the plan is.
But I really would like you to take a look at the precedent of doing it in the middle of the beach.
no, we definitely don't want any signs going up without us knowing about them.
Well, we do have an email from them asking to put more down there.
Yeah, I mean,
So
we should,
we're going to have the conversation.
they have those location signs.
that was 9A, right, or something?
Yeah, all of those,
Yeah,
like
because
that, they should probably be
like,
consolidated.
It's an
with-
important, thing to have at all those spots, but it could be even smaller, I guess, for the future.
Vicki Littman was head of the, I think they had Ocean Rescue, they had lifeguards. She was head of a committee that worked on this for a long time, and I worked on it with her, and that's why it was brilliant to put those numbered signs up on every beach, because what happened on our beach when the woman drowned was nobody knew where Deerfield was. And now we have the numbers on the road so that if rescue comes, they know that's the walkway, and we have the numbers on the beach. So we've had a,
What would you think about combining the number signs with the safety message signs?
I don't think they will do that.
I can't answer that question. I'm not president anymore. If I was president, I could answer the question, but I'm retired from that.
Well, the discussion's begun here. and we'll
22 years
continue
was
with
enough.
them too. And if it comes down for the winter, we have time to plan out where it might go in the spring.
This winter we're talking
Well, you
about.
might want to get in touch with that committee.
Sure.
Too, who coordinates ocean rescue and lifeguard, and Vicki was chair of that committee. I don't know if it meets now or it doesn't meet anymore, but, you know, when I talked to her, she said that sign is very distracting.
So you have to give us a chance. Let us talk about it. See what we come up with.
I appreciate it.
We're very artsy, you know.
I appreciate it.
Thanks, Rona.
Thanks, Rona.
Thank you, Rona.
Okay, Mark Mendelman?
Hi, Mark Mendelman, Seacoast Enterprises Associates, 3 Mile Harbor Marina. Thank you. I was hoping to be on the agenda for just some administrative business. So I appreciate the opportunity to just get on the public.
You're on the agenda.
We're on our new business.
It's on.
So you're going to do it now.
Great.
That's what this is all about. You don't have to do it
I
again.
printed this off the web, so it must have, anyway. First item is renewal of a permit for bulkhead. That's for bulkhead replacement and maintenance dredging. It's just a renewal. It expires in November. We haven't gotten the natural resources special permit yet, so I would expect that we will need to renew this to get the work done. Next thing is, so that was TMH #8, number 15. Next one is TMH #4-15. This is the docks and pilings replacement at 3 Mile Harbor Marina. This was approved, and we basically have in the permit that we come back to the board. We tell you what has been done and what we plan to do this winter, and then you technically renew the permit. So this is a diagram of the docks, basically out at the ends of the A and the B dock and the C dock have all been replaced. The pilings are next this winter. There is Sandy grant money available to us to do all of them at once, so that's why we're asking for so many in a single season. Usually we wouldn't be able to do that many at a time, so this is kind of a unique year for that. So I'll give you that.
For those that weren't here last year, and correct me if I'm wrong, this is a lengthy, well, as many as 5-year project.
Right.
And we didn't want to give a 5-year permit, but they would be kind enough to give us an update as he's doing now, and we would reissue a permit to continue his work. So that's,
So this should be
Thank you, Brian.
fairly simple.
yep, yep.
Those are basically the only 2 administrative renewals that we were looking at. Couple things, since I have the mic, if you don't mind. November 8th, there's a ballot resolution for the CPF to both extend it and to have up to 20% for water quality improvements. Everybody out there, please vote yes. The Thursday, this Thursday at 11 a.m., there's a press conference or a press event at the end of Gann Road, put on by the Nature Conservancy. If anyone would like to attend that, they're welcome to. Thank you. Appreciate your attention.
What's the date again, Mark?
Thursday.
The date? Thursday, okay.
Thursday.
I called you guys about a gift for the Clam Contest. You guys want to respond? Is anything ready? Is it ready?
Whenever you want.
He will not let an
If
opportunity
I
go
did
by.
that, I'd be in a lot of trouble.
Thanks, guy.
Just seeing if it's, if I can come pick it up or something.
Excellent.
going to be a sponsor.
Okay, okay.
It's not a,
Speedboat, right?
Seine nets.
great.
Popper.
It's not for me. It's not a gift to me. Oh,
Is that good?
There you go. In the same kind of trouble I'm in.
I didn't realize it was.
Yeah, we had one in the past, and she signed it.
Yeah.
It's bad.
Oh,
Okay,
oh, it's a C. Okay.
okay.
Okay, Pat Osari?
Have a good night.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Pat Osari.
Hi,
I
Pat.
live out here 54 years. When I first came out here, I'm on Wyandanch Lane in that same association as at Rona. When I came out here 54 years ago in that section, and my husband and father-in-law built our house, there were very, very few houses down in my area. Within 3 years, Fire Island became a national seashore, and 35 houses were built down there within the next 2 years. It really grew. At one point, we even had real estate put signs on the beach on houses that were for rent. We took them down immediately. I see that happening now. You could have a sign down there saying, somebody wants to give lessons in boogie boards. You want a beach with full of signs? Well, that's what's going to happen. Memorial is one thing, but people are going to say, oh, they got that. We'll put this one down. You don't see this happening. Out here now, in the summer, you got a different kind of population coming out. You don't notice it when you're riding the road? I do.
Sure.
Or shopping, just going to the store. I had this year when I went in on a Saturday. Can't you shop during the week? No, I volunteer during the week. Give me a break. So don't tell me signs are not going up on our beach. I definitely think it's nice to have a memorial. Put a bench up or something, but not that. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Anybody else like to speak? Okay, we'll move on. New business. Acabana Creek, we have a ZBA public hearing notice of 9/20.
It was just heard on last Tuesday. And so Adam Young was the only one that really was adjacent to us, but it didn't really seem a major concern. There's, I guess, a patio, which there's allowing the patio to be within the 20-foot setback for the side yard lot line. I don't see that as anything that was a threat to water quality or anything like that. I don't think any trustee was there at the meeting. I'm not sure how it went. That was the only one that was adjacent to us, and it was didn't seem like a major thing to me or anyone else that I think, Dan,
Okay.
you looked at it too, right? Seems pretty benign.
So there's no need for us to comment or anything?
Yeah, and it's, I'm not sure if it's held open, but it's the hearing was already held, so I can see what happened on that hearing, but as far as I know, it likely passed. It doesn't seem like anything too onerous. That's it.
That's it? Okay. Beaches, Anisco, storage of sculling, Girard Drive. All right, that's one of the boats that was removed, and they sent a letter saying that it wasn't where it was. So,
Okay.
yeah. Eastman, Lot 13N, and interior repairs.
This is completely interior, and they have a dumpster with a lid on it. They've met the criteria, and it just seems pro forma.
Okay.
All their other permits are in place with the town?
This house, interior. So Lori, did I get a letter saying, probably halfway done? All right, I'll just contact them.
Okay. 3 Mile Harbor, public hearing notice. We talked about that last meeting.
Who was,
Pat'll be
Tyler
there.
was gonna go down there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to hear this.
Okay, so we'll move on to the next one. 3 Mile Harbor Marina, we just did. Application of PND Hamptons LLC.
Yeah, I have that one. I took pictures. This work was done in 2014 by the contractor, James H. Rambo, and according to Ms. Wilshire, he was not aware that he needed to get permits from us to do the work. I find that a little hard to believe. Rambo has been doing this kind of work for a long time. I'll pass the pictures around. It looks like he did a fine job, and I suggest that we send him a letter reminding him that he has to come before us. A permit needs to be written up, for this type of work. I don't know if anybody wants to weigh in on that. We did receive a check about a week ago, I guess, from Lori Wilshire for the permit application. But again, it's, the work is done. It's 2 years old.
So how do we prevent this in the future?
Well, the only thing I thought of that we could do, giving Mr. Rambo, I guess, the benefit of the doubt, is to, really put him on notice that, he has to play by the rules, if you would.
I would say, Brian, I remember they also did some repair to the dock and replacement of the pilings at this property. And Mr. Rambo did that work because we were back and forth over the size of the pilings, and they had made a request that we would allow them to leave the pilings in year-round. They'd make them huge so the ice wouldn't move them. So anyway, if this work was done at that approximate same time, Mr. Rambo he should have known at that point. We should have been aware of the full scope of the project. So although it is 2 years old, we might want to take another look back at our permit and make sure that the rest of whatever conditions we did have were met
Right.
before we just say okay to the bulkhead.
I wouldn't be opposed to that.
I would like to see also, if they repaired the bulkhead, let's make sure that it was replaced in place or behind what was there, because otherwise they've encroached into the farmland. If they went in front of the, so that would be a major problem for me, if they went in front of it. So we might be able to see if we can get a survey.
Before and after?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and just by doing that, it's going to be enough of an annoyance to the agent and Mr. Rambo that they might think twice before they go ahead and do something similar in the future. What do you think?
And the owner of the property is Joker, right?
No, well, I
What is
don't know
this?
now.
It's a corporation.
Feeney, yeah, Feeney and PND, they're the same people, just two different corporate names for adjacent properties.
Okay.
It's formerly the Murray property, I believe, which was a house burned down at one point.
It's just laying dormant at this point, the home.
Yeah.
You could
Yeah.
see it's,
Yeah.
the grass is about 3 feet tall. The driveway is now grass.
Yeah.
So there's nobody living
Okay,
there.
so we might be able to find some photos in the file too of the older bulkhead, so then we can compare as well. See if it looks like
You're on that committee as well?
3 Mile Harbor? I don't think so.
No?
But I'll be happy to look at it.
Yeah, I'd like to sit down if you don't mind.
Yep.
And let's see what we have on file versus what was done and
Because some of the work on this property was, resulted in an actual code change
okay,
several years ago.
okay.
Okay.
So that would be the answer to your question. We'll just, if it's okay, we'll, not do anything in terms of the approval until we meet
We'll meet
Yeah.
between
in
now
2
and
weeks.
next meeting.
Yeah, that'll be
Yeah.
fine.
Review everything on the
Yeah.
site.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I mean, at the very least, someone should come in and explain why they went ahead and did this work without the permits,
Yeah.
especially if they had already come for
Right.
a permit for
Right.
part of the work.
And why, if they,
It's the
if they
same
had a
contractor
natural
that we
resources
wanted to-
permit, if they
Yeah,
needed a
we needed
ZBA
a
permit,
permit for the
why
bulkhead.
nobody thought to say,
Why
hey,
didn't he?
So, do you
trustees?
think that nobody is living there now? He had said the grass
Well,
was
there's
like-
2 properties, so one is probably more vacant because the house had burned. I don't know if they ever
Oh,
rebuilt
oh.
it. The other one, anyway.
Okay.
This is
Yeah.
done, they
We'll know.
want it formalized, but we just need some more information about Paul's site.
Probably another one looking for a CO.
I
Yeah,
think
They
so.
can
or
rent it
rental
or sell
registry
it.
thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
all right.
Okay, and back to the Paddle Diva. Did you
Sure.
get a chance to go down there?
Well, I looked into it, the kind of property lines. I looked on a survey from the Marina, and I looked on the tax map and some things, and it looks like that part of the beach where they're storing and launching from is public. So I don't know how you guys want to, go forward with that, but they have a public hearing on the 27th, I think, to discuss their use. I don't know if it's, I know Rick would know, but he can't comment, I think. But it's, can you tell us at least what
Hearing tomorrow night.
exactly the heroes on?
I'm the attorney for the,
Right.
it's a zoning appeal matter, that's what the issue is, but
See if they can clarify the use of what their business does, to see
Well,
if it's under Shagwong Marina?
all I can say is this, I
Special use?
mean, there was a determination by the building inspector that stand-up paddle boards were not permitted, not a permitted use under the code.
I see, right.
And our contention is that they are boats or vessels and therefore allowed in a marina.
Oh, man.
All I can really tell you.
Interesting. Okay, thanks, Rick. I guess all that concerns us really is what, where
Town
they're
code
storing them.
describes a,
So
They're storing them on the
but you
vessel.
you didn't actually go
I
down.
didn't personally
and
visit
look.
the beach there. I didn't really see.
the town
So are
code
they
describes
doing
a
this
vessel
on
as
our
anything
property,
that can
or-
be used for transportation over water. So,
Say that again?
the town code describes a vessel as anything that can be used for transportation over water.
Wow.
But they did not allow jet skis. Jet skis are not
Jet skis are a
considered,
special,
right?
mean,
But they're
they're a
not considered a
specialty.
vessel. Because you're
they're
on them, you're
considered a
not in
specialty.
them.
Even New York State navigation law makes a differentiation
Right.
for jet skis.
So how do we come into this?
Paddleboards might
Or
also be.
is it on our property?
Well, from what I understand, right now, we had
Yeah,
had a phone call complaint. She's set up down here on the beach.
Right.
There's a little beach area outside. So the contention is this public beach? And if you look at this, yeah,
It seems to be, yeah, it's outside of the
Yeah.
property lines.
so,
But I think this is,
Well,
the zoning thing is probably how many uses are allowed on the property and stuff like that, so.
Well, should we wait and
No.
see what happens?
Figured,
tomorrow
yeah, that's what I
night?
was thinking, was that we'd see what
Maybe a
happens
little more
tomorrow night. at
research,
least.
do a site visit.
Yeah,
If
yeah.
it's- Yeah, if it's going to be an allowable use
See this?
for the marina, she should utilize the marina.
Then
Yeah,
the
I
issue
mean-
with the public
Property
beach
next
goes
to it.
away.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because
so
there
somebody
was
could set
there
up
was a,
something here.
she was set up inside a building
It's the
on the
beginning.
place and operating out of
This was an
there.
alternative plan.
And I think I think that the zoning case probably pushed her down to an alternate
Then maybe we have a
location.
discussion with them after tomorrow night if it's necessary.
Yeah,
and
so I was
see how we
thinking,
can
depending on how it
proceed.
turns out tomorrow, it'll affect how we're going to go forward, so.
Wonder if they were allowed to use those sailboards when they were popular,
Yeah, windsurfing?
the stand-up windsurfers.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, if they're boats or if they're not boats. And that's a biggie. We don't want to get to that if we don't have to. If they're using property that belongs to the trustees
Yeah,
to
would be like-
operate a business, that's what,
Yeah, that's the issue.
That's where we come in.
Well, from the maps we looked at, it seems like it's public property. That is indeed where they're being stored,
maybe,
trustee property. yeah.
okay.
maybe there's high
serious.
water marks involved and,
On the survey,
Yeah.
it shows the mean high water mark on the survey, which I don't have it with me.
Does it show the property?
It's got the office and
I'll
the
go
tax map,
tomorrow
right?
night if you want.
yeah, that's
I
a
think it's
tax
being high
map.
water right
That's
there,
not a
yeah.
real,
Alright.
but
That
that's
is
not
being
a
high water.
survey.
It has high water mark here.
Our ownerships of
Or it
the
looks like it's above the
inner
harbor.
harbors is probably the most solid.
I'll go tomorrow night.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm not
Alright,
through
great.
the harbor, but
Yeah, I
I don't
can.
step on anybody's toes.
Great. I can't make it tomorrow night, so
Okay.
I'm not on the harbor tonight either, but
Okay.
I don't mind doing it. You know, doing that at least, looking into it.
All right,
Francis?
yes.
At some point, can we announce the largest clam contest?
Yeah,
Let the public
after
know.
this.
Okay.
All right, and then the last thing, this came in today. Bruce is still not getting very far with the permit for the Bottleneck at Georgica Cove. I had requested a meeting on site, and that was kind of pushed aside until this application goes
For the big dredging
further through
application.
the process. The big dredge? No, this is for the
I know,
Bottleneck.
Bruce is the bottleneck thing.
Right,
but
right.
Francis, I'm sorry, you requested a meeting with who?
With the DEC on site.
And they're not
No,
willing?
they're not, no, they weren't willing to meet with us until this goes further through the process. It was
I mean,
very-
they haven't processed the application fully enough? Was that the reason?
They've deemed it complete at this point. Now they're pushing it on to the next reviewer.
What's the name of the?
Yeah, it was odd.
One we'd hope they would meet with the public body.
I contacted George Hammer. He clearly passed it on to the next person, and they're the ones that responded that they would consider meeting with us later on, after this goes further.
Okay.
Yeah, it was very, very odd.
Oh. If you really want to meet with them, I'd press them on it. I mean, if you really want to, you press them, say, that's,
Well,
that's not a satisfactory answer, we want to meet with you.
I understand that the staff is changing in there, and the concern is they don't know Georgica Pond at all. They don't know anything about it. It's just a drawing on a map.
Right.
And so we thought if we got them down there and you know, walk through it, then maybe we
I
can
think
get
that's a
somewhere.
great idea. Get them down there and educate them before someone miseducates them as to Georgica Pond. Yeah.
You want to see it?
Strange as well as disappointing.
Here's the other
We need
part
some
of
of
this.
this.
All right,
Important for the pond.
move on to old business.
Clam contest?
Clam contest.
Do you want to
Okay.
send them some further correspondence from the
Well,
board?
let's see.
Oh, yeah, let me have
Brought the poster for you.
That would be wonderful, thank you.
Sure, you want to do it?
So much for that.
I have some things to say about it too, so.
All right.
Okay, use your radio
Take it away.
voice.
Sorry. Did you want to?
No, go ahead.
My radio. Hello, everybody. Okay, so this Saturday will be our 26th annual largest clam contest.
Sunday.
Sunday, excuse me.
All right, I'll do it.
I'll give you another chance. Okay, so, excuse me. This Sunday, October 2nd, will be the 26th annual largest clam contest, and that will be at the trustee office on the corner of Bluff Road and Atlantic Avenue. There'll be plenty of free clam chowder. I understand there's going to be a raw bar. We'll have some oysters and clams on a half shell, and that's all free. We do have a rain date, but we have tents now, so there may not be a rain date. So again, it's October 2nd. The rules, should I go over them real quickly?
Sure.
Okay. You have to have a valid East Hampton Town shellfish license, and all clams must be caught in certified waters in East Hampton Town between Saturday, September 24th, and Saturday, October 1st. Only hard clams. When you have your clam, if you think you got a big one, you can bring it down to Gosman's Fish Market in Montauk. Amagansett Seafood Store in Amagansett, next to the IGA, the Seafood Shop in Wainscott, and of course Stewart's Seafood Market here in Amagansett. That's enough. Look forward to seeing everybody. Again, it's Sunday, October 2nd. Okay, good.
Nice.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Brian.
Yep. Did you want to add anything to it?
Basically, you covered it.
They got the location and everything, right?
Yeah, it's the Lamb Building on Bluff Road.
And
Yeah,
you're going to do the chowder as well?
Parking all
Chowder
over the
contest?
place.
Right.
So
People should
people bring your,
a
make,
quart of either their red, white chowder.
right.
We'll keep it warm. Judges will taste it. Yep.
Noon, 12 to,
Starts at noon.
12 to 3.
Starts at noon.
Noon to
3.
3.
Sunday,
Unless we're
October
having a
2nd.
really good time.
Right.
We're going to have Joe Potter's going to be playing some music for us.
Oh, great.
Joe and Steven.
And Judge Tukolsky, yeah.
Yep, and Steven Tukolsky. I'm not sure if Cornell can make it or not yet. I talked to them, and they're having trouble with staffing that day because they have another event. So they're going to try to get someone out if possible. But we will have Barley there from the Shellfish Hatchery to give us an update on how the Shellfish Hatchery is going. And we'll have Ray Hartman from Classic Boat Society there with a classic boat, I suppose. And that's about it. Yeah, chowder's red or white. Only one winner, right? Whether it's red or white. So bring us your chowder and your biggest clams.
And generally, Barley will have a jar or a jug full of baby seeds.
Oh, and guess how many are in there?
And so he'll ask people to guess how many are in there, and the person who's closest, we give him a clam T-shirt to give to the winner who gets closest. So he'll ask you for
Great.
a T-shirt that,
He has
Okay, good. We'll bring some
counted
T-shirts.
Yeah.
one of his little,
Definitely.
yeah.
Great.
And of course, a lot of our merchants, we want to thank them. They were very generous, and we've got some really
say,
cool
yeah.
gifts.
Yeah, we got a lot of nice prizes from a lot of great local businesses, so we're happy to have somebody
and we
sponsor.
see how you do it.
I want to see the boy's face, the child, when he gets Billy Vorpal's oil change. That's going to be tough.
Yeah, we're
Right.
going to do both adults and juniors, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we mentioned that too, that children can submit a clam, if their parent has a valid license. So prizes in each of the 4 harbors for both the adult and the junior. Yeah.
So we should limit that oil change to adults.
That's right. Yeah, we will.
All right, it should be a really fun time.
Yeah.
Looking forward to it.
Okay.
All right. Old business.
Fred,
Yeah.
Going back to Georgica Pond for a second, this is kind of disturbing, this correspondence from DEC. And DEC staff does not seem to understand that the purpose of the project
Right.
is to excavate Phragmites because the Phragmites are choking off the mouth of Georgica Cove.
Right.
He's complaining about the fact that we're going to convert a vegetated tidal wetland to an open water, non-vegetated wetland. Well,
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's the
what it
whole
was.
point.
Right.
Sounds like he has a fundamental misunderstanding of what we're doing.
Fundamental misunderstanding of what the object of the application is.
So,
So
I think some more correspondence.
This is exactly why you would have the conversation now, rather than after they have a technical evaluation.
Right.
Yeah.
You
Meeting,
understand what we're doing and why.
So what's the best way to proceed, Rick?
I would demand a meeting.
well, we're meeting with Kim on Wednesday morning to discuss this,
Yeah.
and hopefully she can come on board and,
It's a municipal project.
Yeah.
I think if you want to have a meeting, you got a meeting. And if the lower level guy says no, go higher. The state of New York is proposing water quality improvements. We're proposing to divert some of our, our CPF monies for water quality improvements. And you've got a state agency that's stymieing, on the face of it, a proposed water quality improvement.
No, this is not the final answer.
Now,
no, we're not done. All right. Old business, trustee policies and procedures, anything on that?
I was on vacation last week, so
Okay.
I have no update on the shoreline fencing or on
Okay.
Middle Highway.
Or the highway? That's fine.
I would just want to reiterate that I'm concerned about the old snow fencing, the steel pipes, the metal stakes that are in the ground.
They have a Nature Conservancy sign on it.
Well, it's sitting back, no? The big one, you mean?
It
on
goes,
the dune?
it goes along the dune and wraps around the front onto the beach side, and it's Nature Conservancy.
And I called them about it, and yet they said they didn't know anything about it. But that's just one. I mean, there's a lot out there.
Their sign is on it.
Okay, all right.
So we should just take those things out.
I was looking at it last Friday.
Are these stakes that are not attached to any shoreline fencing anymore?
Well, they are.
They are. They're metal fencing, metal stakes on the snow fence in the
Snow
dune.
fencing is still effective?
If you pull up to Indian Wells, along both sides, and it wraps around the beachfront. So it's keeping the sand off the parking lot.
Yeah, I guess there are stakes right alongside the parking lot.
Should be,
And
right?
they're all metal, yeah.
Okay, so.
Well, the fence to the east is just falling down. That's not even functional anymore. And the one on the right-hand side, on the west side, the Nature Conservancy, that seems to be pretty active in doing what it's supposed to do.
Did they have a natural resources special permit to put it up,
You don't know when they did it.
right?
They've been there for a long time.
I
That's the
suspect.
problem with the pre-existing situation. I mean, if somebody did something that was either legal at the time or was not prohibited or was not regulated, then, I wouldn't advise going in and start tearing out things.
It sounds like something, if we bring it to their attention, they might be willing to correct it.
Yeah, that would probably be my approach.
Yeah.
Well, if the one on the west, east, on the left, east, appears to be dilapidated, and we don't know whose it is,
We want to make
it
them
sounds like
aware
a
that
danger.
if they're
I
going
mean, if
to,
it's
you
not
make-
functional anymore, I'd have less of a
Right.
concern.
How do you make them aware if you don't know who it is? Pull it up, we'll find out who it is.
send a tack to parcel owner a letter.
Oh,
Now, isn't that the Amagansett Beach Association?
yes.
Yeah.
Well, you'd be doing them a favor if you took it away. You'd just be cleaning up.
But the one on the east also has the Nature Conservancy sign.
Oh, geez.
On the
The
east?
sign is on the fence, yeah.
So let's send them a letter.
And I think I don't know, they don't own any land east. And certainly not directly. My Suffolk County GIS isn't working. I usually follow things on the map here, but I might be able to get onto it.
Brian, do you think the fence could be redeployed with wooden stakes, or is it beyond?
Oh, the one
repair?
on the east could, on the west could. Yeah, that's, relatively new in comparison to the other one. The other one,
Here we go, now it's working.
but yes, I think wooden stakes could replace the metal ones on the west side. See, I'm a little confused, though. So are we saying that the metal stakes are being grandfathered in? That was not my understanding.
No, it depends on when they were placed.
Because, they tend to wreak havoc,
Is it
they're dangerous.
zigzag? Like we're asking for, is it zigzagged?
Not necessarily.
Or if
no,
it's
it
in
just
bad
goes
shape and
around.
needs work, probably now's the time. Let's try getting a hold of the Nature Conservancy about it.
I think the Conservancy does own that big tract of land on the east side of Indian Wells and south side of Bluff Road, in that corner area. But of course, not right up against the south end of Indian Wells Highway, because that's the Amagansett East or Amagansett Beach Association. So, but once you go past the beach association property, then it's Nature Conservancy until you reach the town land that's south of the Ocean Dunes Apartments.
I would think that each one of those organizations would be willing to remedy the situation.
Yeah, I
Bring it
mean,
to their
you might
attention.
reach out to them and say that you got a potential safety issue here, and
Send them a letter.
that would not be allowed today.
Yeah, if you're going to do any work on
Putting
it.
them on notice that there's a potential safety hazard there. They might want to.
That's the conversation I had with the gentleman.
Was
And he
it,
said, we're not in the business of putting snow fence up. We didn't do that. And I said, okay, thanks a lot. Have a nice day.
Who did you talk to?
somebody from the Beach
No,
Association?
from Nature Conservancy.
Oh.
His wife works with the town.
Oh, Paul.
Yeah, and he told me. He said, and I believe him, it's
Well, what's his sign?
maybe unbeknownst to him, somebody put it there. And again, my only concern is it's got metal stakes, and as it goes onto the beach, a kid could be running after a football or a Frisbee and get impaled on, this rusty metal stake.
And we have no approval for putting it on there. It seems as though if that's the case,
I think it's been there a
But
long
come on.
time. My
They've been there for
concern
30
is,
years.
my concern is, getting this metal stakes out and wooden ones put in. Really, that's in a nutshell, that's all. I'm not trying to make more of it. And then on
fence-
the other side, where the fence is laying almost on the road, we just, perhaps we could ask Tony Lippman just to take them out, so nobody gets hurt,
Yeah.
that's all. So, and I think we should do that by way of a memo, asking him to remove them, at least in the parking lot.
I think it's prudent to remove a danger to the public if it's there.
Well, it's the new
It's on
code.
our property,
Totally,
yes.
Metal's not
We get sued.
acceptable anymore.
Yeah, if something happened within the time it takes to contact these organizations and hear back from them, that would be a
Are you going to ask him to
Tragedy,
remove
so-
east side or west side? Or both?
No,
Just the west side?
the east side for parks. And as far as the west side, perhaps somebody else would like to talk to the Nature Conservancy and send a memo.
I'll talk to them.
Okay. That'd be great.
Who owns the property? The worst offender is at the place, is that in the village, right past 2 Mile Hollow there? There's one that has, must be 100 rusty metal stakes.
Where in relation to 2 Mile Hollow Road?
I think it's right on the beach, right
East-
right behind
east or
the new,
west?
east.
It's right adjacent to the access road, right?
Yeah, right that
One with the
access
new-
road there.
The flying stairway? The new flying staircase?
It's,
The
I
flying-
think it's before that, it's behind the new restrooms there. It's been there for a long time.
Behind the restrooms.
Between the restrooms.
Private land over there, I suppose.
Yeah.
I mean, the village parking area is a very large parcel itself, but,
How much does the village parking area go beyond the village?
hang on,
You can't tell that from that, right? Yeah.
I think the parking's got to be on the village property. I mean, the restroom has got to be on the village property.
Yeah.
The restroom is well onto the village land.
This stuff, we should check with the village administrator, maybe, see, don't know who belongs. It might be the neighbor there.
Yeah, it's right at the edge, could be on village property.
That's a mess.
There's metal stakes all along the ocean.
Yeah.
All right. Trustees application to the ZBA. Lori, we didn't get a response. No, okay.
Is the village ZBA?
I'm sorry?
Village of East Hampton?
Yeah,
I think that hearing was on Friday.
it was. Oh, Sarah left. Okay, thought maybe she would know something. So we haven't heard anything yet.
I was at the village zoning board, not on that, obviously, I'm trying to think.
Thought you were on vacation.
I had to come in on Friday, because there was a village hearing, I came in for a couple hours. Bruce was there, my only recollection, it was a fairly short
With the
hearing
village?
For, I mean,
I saw something on TV with him.
yeah, I mean,
Bruce said he didn't need anyone with him, so.
problem is I don't remember, all I remember is it was short. I think there might have, I'm trying to think if there was a memo that he was referring to that may have been from the village environmental consultant. I don't know, I don't have enough of a recollection of it.
All right.
Did we skip Middle Highway?
We don't have anything.
Yeah,
Nothing for Middle Highway? Okay. Just curious.
I was
She
out, so
She
I
was
haven't
curious.
talked
I heard you.
Dawn on that.
Did you want to,
What?
she was,
We had nothing new on it.
I have to talk to John Zolnicki, and I was out
Right.
last week,
Okay.
so.
All right. Secra, are we going to talk about that?
Did I distribute before I went on vacation?
Yeah.
I think I
Yes.
did.
yeah.
I don't know if you want to talk about that starting tonight, or what you'd like to do, if you get a chance to.
You guys ready to start talking
at it?
about it?
I mean, I think I know where I stand on it.
I think it's a mistake.
Oh, I'm sorry, say again?
I just think it's a mistake.
Well, I don't really think you have a choice.
think
I
you
really
do.
don't think you have a choice.
I do.
There's a state Supreme Court decision that said the Southampton Town trustees are subject to secret. that accords with the purpose behind the law, you know, I mean, the same decision is likely to be rendered if it involves the East Hampton Town Trustees. You're really no different in that regard from the Southampton Town Trustees. So unless you think that, you know, you would
I think New York State Supreme
appeal.
Court is wrong. We have a Duncan patent that tells us we can do what we want to do without let or hindrance from anyone else.
You're still subject to the,
See-
still subject to the
Yeah,
authority.
Star
we're
referred
a
to that,
board, we're an
too.
agency of some sorts.
But since the Duncan patent, we have lawyers and lawsuits, and anything that we lose, and we will go to the public. Eventually, the price goes to the public for the loss of a lawsuit.
And I feel like, Dan, you're always so proactive on, you know, preventing possible legal issues, like being very thorough with the minutes and things like that. And I respect that about you. And I just would kind of think that in this situation, it's something where we're preventing possible, you know, legal actions that could negatively impact us and the public in the future by doing this. So I feel like it's just a good way to
No,
safeguard us from
see-
possible lawsuits in the future.
Because I was always under the impression that the trustees, being a governmental entity that was managing properties on behalf of the public, could make a determination based on our deliberations, that we're not looking at the guidelines and the rules that are set forth by town, state, county, federal governments. The examples being when the DEC insists in Southampton Town that every dock has to be long enough to have 3 foot at mean low water. You know, we can't do that in East Hampton. I've mentioned it before. Years ago, the DEC would not, they would allow replacement of a bulkhead in front of the existing, where this board would say in place or behind. So and I know, like working with the state, when you talk about traversing with the beach vehicles through the Napeague stretch, the state said they cannot be site-specific and allow East Hampton residents to access that state park, because then they would have to do the same thing in every other state park. Those levels of government cannot be site-specific, cannot be make adjustments or allowances for specific situations that we can as trustees. And no one should be able to take that away from us. I just think, like, going forward, that there's been too many times where county, state, federal governments, you know, they come up with these rules and regs that just do not work in East Hampton,
So
you know?
you think
Can I
understand that.
can I speak to
lose
that?
authority?
We can be more strict than their regulations if
We
we
can be
want to,
more strict, right,
We just
but
can't
we
be less.
but,
Can I,
okay.
let me, Diane, I've known you a long time, so I know what you're thinking about. And I know how you're thinking. And look, we just had a little example a moment ago. We're talking about Georgica Pond. When you're dealing with state agencies, and we mostly mean the DEC, all right, it can be frustrating because they sometimes want to dictate to us, and, you know, your view is, hey, we're a sovereign public body. We don't want to be dictated to, particularly on something where we think we have local knowledge and we know better. And I understand that, and that's a valid concern with regard to dealing with the DEC, applying for them to permits and things like that. SECRET is totally different. The DEC doesn't run SECRET. SECRET is a procedural law that gives whatever the reviewing agency is essentially extra power. What SECRET is all about is on a project that might have a significant adverse environmental impact, it says to the lead agency, well, it says two things. It does require, if you will, that you take environmental issues into account, but I think you'd want to do that anyway. It doesn't exactly say to what extent you have to do it. It just says you have to take environmental considerations into account. And it says ultimately, if you find that a particular project might have a significant adverse impact, you are free to require that the applicant prepare an environmental impact statement. So it actually empowers you. No one at DEC oversees this. The DEC does not look down and say, well, we don't think you're running SECRET very well. You should have. They don't do that at all. So it's very different from the other ways in which the trustees might be subject to state legislation, because no one oversees it. All SECRET does is it says, A, you have to consider environmental impacts, and secondly, in terms of how you do that with projects that come before you, you know, you have to go through certain procedures or make the applicant go through certain procedures, and you can require them in an appropriate case to do an environmental impact statement. So it's very important that unlike the other things, we don't defer to anyone, any agency when you're doing secret. You don't defer your decision-making to anyone else. You just make your own decision under secret. So it's a lot less threatening in that regard.
Right.
Wasn't that used in the specific case you brought up by the people that wanted to build a marina to invalidate the trustees' actions? And
Well, yes, I mean, that is true. In that case,
that's
the
what
trustees
happened.
were
And
overturned.
That one
They were
specific case was spot on to what could happen here, is you could make a decision, and then you wind up in legal entanglements. In the Southampton case, it involved the Dongan Patent, it involved people dredging, it involved things done with waterways, it involved permits. And the Supreme Court turned around and said that the trustees' actions in that case were invalid because they hadn't followed this procedural thing. And it doesn't seem like a very huge procedural undertaking. Basically, it says that any public agency issuing a permit has to sort of ask itself a couple questions first. And those questions are, is this going to have a horrible effect on the environment? And, you know, am I correct on that?
Yeah, that's basically right. You have to take a hard look at the project. You have to make a determination as to whether or not it might have a significant adverse environmental impact. And 3, you have to make a reasoned elaboration. In other words, a sufficient explanation of whatever the decision that you make is.
So let's take the example of the rock revetments down along Louse Point. The trustees did not feel that they were, that they should be built there. Significant and adverse environmental, okay? Define that. But your definition is different than his, but it's different than his. Significant, okay? That's going to be a problem with,
But you make that determination.
Yeah, we
before
discussed
you
it
make
here.
that
but
determination.
if we say, you know, like, based on our local knowledge, we don't think we should have a rock revetment because eventually we're going to lose the public beach in front of it. But then your applicant comes in with reams of paper from the coastal guru who says, no, it's not going to happen, you know. So then how do we maintain our ability to say, I don't believe that coastal engineer, I don't think he's right. We think
Whereas
on
sometimes
our,
We're dealing with non-specifics. You want to know, once we get into secret, we've got to have specifics.
right. Another
But
example,
that's the same, Dan, bear in mind, if you didn't do secret, the same question. If you wanted to deny the project and the applicant, the person proposing the amendment, wanted to go to court, it's the exact same issue. Did the trustees have enough knowledge, enough grounds for denying it? One thing about secret requires you can require an environmental impact statement, which requires you to ask a lot of questions and get detailed and technical responses. And often in doing that, you can get, you know, I don't want to say you will get the information to sink the project, but sometimes you do.
so who comes up with the questions that are going to be asked?
You guys do.
We do, okay.
Yep.
And they can be different for each project,
Yeah, it depends on the
Yeah.
the facts of the particular matter.
okay?
That's the better we are.
Okay.
They can get us.
You're in control of the whole
arbitrary
secret process. You
They'll
have,
get it every time.
where Southampton got tripped up is Southampton approved a marina expansion over in Quogue. They didn't do secret at all, and that's why their approval of the project was overturned. They said, we don't have to do secret. And the court said, no, you have to do secret. And therefore, the court didn't say that it was a good idea or a bad idea to approve that marina expansion. What the court said is, you didn't go through the procedural steps, so I'm going to invalidate your decision.
Had they done secret, it's quite possible their decision would have been upheld.
It's possible, yes.
And there are also times where it's a certain class of secret that it doesn't warrant.
2, right?
There are 3 classes of actions under secret, all right? Type 1 actions, which are considered to be larger and potentially more harmful. And there's a legal presumption, although that's very fuzzy, but a legal presumption in favor of an environmental impact statement. That's a type 1 action. A big industrial power plant in East Hampton would probably be a type 1 action, for example.
You think so?
Yeah, you know, there's different, you know, there's not a lot of projects in East Hampton that would be type 1, but there are some. And you can even put certain things on the type 1 list. For example, you could decide whatever. You wanted to put a rock revetment,
Revetments
maybe
are all
rock
type
groins on the type 1 list. On the other side, there are type 2 actions, things that under SECRA are not subject to SECRA. A very good example is anything having to do with a single-family home. Doesn't matter if it's Ira Rennert's mansion, doesn't matter. If it's a single-family house or an addition to a single-family house, that class of actions, by their nature, the DC has said, look, very few of these will ever have a significant environmental impact by themselves. So we're taking, single-family residences off the board. And many, many other things, minor type things, are type 2. And everything that's not on either the type 1 list, which is subject to SECRA, or the type 2 list, which means exempt from SECRA, everything else is unlisted. You deal with the type 1 actions and the unlisted actions. Anything that is type 2, you don't go through the process. There are routine things and ministerial actions that you take from time to time that you don't want to go through you don't even want to have to do an EAF on them, all right? You can probably create your own type 2 list and add those things to the type 2 list, and you won't have to deal with it. So SECRA probably won't happen that often. Between the existing SECRA, state type 2 list and whatever you can legally add to the type 2 list. I mean, you can't say, every revetment is going to be on the type 2 list. You wouldn't want to, but you probably couldn't either. If you put your routine type things on the type 2 list, those don't require any SECRA review. And so you'll be dealing, if you're doing dock construction, that'll probably be an unlisted action. It'll be, if someone comes in for docks, you don't see too many new docks, very few,
But
obviously.
you could put snow fencing with,
Type 2. Snow fencing would presumably be on the type 2 list.
that's the type 2.
That's right. So you wouldn't be
Replace, repair in kind, dock work.
Type
Yes, probably type 2. It might even be on the existing DEC type 2 list. It might even be type 2 right now. But yes, a lot of routine stuff, you don't want to deal with all this procedural paperwork. It's not necessary. You're not going to require an environmental impact statement, on the reconstruction of an existing dock, for example. You're just not going to.
Now, can you change things that you put on one?
Yes, you can change the list. Well, here's what you can't do. You can't take anything that's on the state type 2 list and make it subject to SECRA, okay? And also, although you can put things on the type 2 list, you have to be reasonable about that. For example, if you wanted to say, major power plant, we're going to put that on the type 2 list and make it not subject to, no, you can't do that. It's got to be something that's obviously by its nature minimal enough.
Benign, yeah.
Yeah, benign.
So they have like a baseline of things that are on type 2 and type 1 as well, has kind of an
DEC
existing type
regulations,
1
yeah,
list
they
we
have
can
a
add to
baseline.
or take, or
For
not take from
example,
it, add to it.
give you the way they do the type 2 list. If you have a residential development, I'm just picking numbers out of my hat here, but if you have a residential development of maybe, let's say, of 500 units or more in a town of a population of, 100,000 people or more, or less than 100,000, that might be a type 1 action under SECRA, okay? And if you're in the city of New York, maybe it's a project with 1,000, units or more. So they have different standards or thresholds. And those things are type 1. Type 1, again, type 1 just means you're supposed to take a harder look at it. How much harder? It's a little fuzzy. But, you're going to be mostly dealing with things that would be unlisted actions or the vast majority things that are type 2 actions. And you won't have to do SECRA on them. But if someone comes before you with a project that, could have environmental impacts, SECRA allows you to subject them to the SECRA process and including potentially making them do an environmental impact statement.
And type 3?
And what do we do with, can you foresee that there'll be any, there's a lot of applicants in town who have to get trustee and natural resources permits or ZBA permits. Can you foresee, two different entities in East Hampton town both requiring SECRA review from the same applicant? Would there be overlap?
That's a very, 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 very good question. SECRA provides for lead agency.
I was gonna say.
You can have coordinated or uncoordinated review. Usually you strive to have coordinated review, and let's just say it's a project that involves trustee approval and zoning board approval, all right? You guys would decide among yourselves, presumably, usually it's done amicably. Usually the boards agree, okay, yeah, you're more suited to do it, or so usually the lead agency, look, if it involves the zoning board and the trustees, probably involves DEC too. The private applicant would probably need a DEC permit. So you could have the DEC, the zoning board, and the trustees. Among those three agencies, they should decide on who's going to be the lead agency. If you can, then everybody gets to conduct their own independent review. The lead agency is the agency that will decide whether or not an environmental impact statement is required. That determination does not lock in what the other boards do, though. Let's just say, for example, that it's a project, the zoning board becomes the lead agency. They decide not to require an environmental impact statement, and there was coordinated review. You cannot require an environmental impact statement because the zoning board as lead agency decided not to. They made a negative declaration. Are you obligated to approve the project? No. You can't require a DIS, an environmental impact statement, but you still have your own criteria, your own standards, presumably your own ownership of the property, because otherwise you wouldn't be involved. So you still have the right. The fact that you don't require an environmental impact statement or that the lead agency didn't do it doesn't mean that you have to approve the project.
Now, what about if you apply for involved agency status? Does that lock you into their decision?
Well, involved agency is an agency that by law has to grant approval or a permit for the action. So you don't apply for it. You're either an involved agency or you're not. You know, you could be an interested agency. If a project is going on, some of these things that you sometimes talk about that are a zoning board, they don't require DC permits. They're not on DEC land. You're an interested party. You can comment, all right, but you don't have permit granting approval. If it's on your land, you are automatically an involved agency.
Okay.
And any other agency that has to grant a permit, be it the zoning board or the DEC, they have to include you in the process because you're the landowner and you are an involved agency. The project can't go forward without your permission.
Well, let me ask you a question because it's right on this subject. The car wash, for instance,
Right.
under the planning board.
Right.
I had suggested to Rick that maybe we could apply for involved agency
Right, so
status.
you wouldn't be an involved agency on that because there's no permit involved from the trustees.
Okay.
Could you be an interested
I
agency?
see.
Sure, and you can comment on the process, but you're not an involved agency because you don't have permit granting authority in that project.
No, but we have an interest if we think it will impact.
It's going to damage,
Yes.
it's going to damage your
Yeah.
property.
Which means you can comment, you can participate in the process, but, you know, you don't have any decision. You couldn't say, we want to be the lead agency on that. Well, you don't have any permit to grant, so you can't be lead agency.
Now, that car wash would be a type 1 action if the planning board does secret on it, which they're going to have to.
I don't know if it will be type 1, but remember.
Or unlisted. Oh, sorry, it'd probably be
It's
unlisted.
either unlisted, it's probably not type 1. My guess is not type 1. It's probably unlisted. They're probably going to be the lead agency. Can they require DIS in that? Sure.
Now, lead agencies, though, I mean, what if the DEC wants to be the lead agency and we want to be the lead agency on something that was coordinated with, that involved both of us?
There
How do we
are
determine who gets to be
tie-breaking.
the lead agency?
There are some tie-breaking procedures in there. Let me say this. It's going to be pretty rare, especially with the state agency.
Yeah,
If you want to be the lead agency, you can be pretty sure they're going to defer to you.
okay.
Because you got to do the paperwork and all that. If it's a project involving the DEC and you know, and you want to be lead agency, they're probably going to say, sure, you go ahead. You are yours.
So that's another question is, who's going to do the paperwork? I mean, we have us and we
That's
have one
the big-
secretary.
Yeah.
We don't have environmental technicians that work for us.
Well, that's an important question. We know what the other involved boards do, the planning board and the zoning board, and they rely upon planning department staff. That would probably be the way I would try to do most of it. Depends perhaps on the complexity of the project. There might be simpler stuff that, you know, between myself and Lori, we can work up fairly standardized, forms that would work for some projects. If anything gets more involved, then you probably would want, where you actually have to go through the environmental assessment form and, come up with answers to all the different questions. Yeah, ultimately, it still has to be reviewed and approved by you. You guys have to decide what your answers are. But as a practical matter, even the planning board, and the zoning board, they, that stuff usually gets deferred to the planning department, at least gets more or less rubber stamped by the board.
And for the amount of time that we would have to reach out to the planning department for some support, I would, certainly be willing to do that, and I'm sure that they would help us. I don't think it's going to come up too often, based on what Rick is saying.
Look at the zoning board. The zoning board of appeals, believe it or not, for all the work they do, relatively little of what they do actually involves secret. Because they deal with a lot of single-family houses and additions and appurtenant structures like pools and things like that. Single-family homes and things appurtenant things are type 2 actions. They don't get secret review. They're dealing with a marina expansion, well, yeah, that's going to be, commercial marina, that'll be an enlisted action.
So a lot of the documents, I'm thinking what you say, the secret review versus the EAFs.
The EAF is part of SEEK review.
Oh, part of.
Remember that the planning department still does a memo for the zoning board on every application. They used to call that an environmental assessment form, and then a former zoning board member said, wait a second, you shouldn't be using that term if it's a project that's not subject to SECRA. So they now call it a technical analysis memo.
Okay.
Okay, and the planning department does that for every zoning board application. They're not going to do that, and they don't need to do that for you.
Okay.
You would need assistance only on something that is subject to SECRA on the actual SECRA-required environmental assessment form.
And also somebody was making a permit request from us.
Yeah, now I will say this, you should be aware of this. A project that you propose, that you want to undertake, can be subject to SECRA. Government sponsored projects are subject to SECRA.
We would do that ourselves.
Well, that's another interesting thing, because very little of what you do requires no one else's approval, right? Even if you want to dredge, let's just say, fresh pond or something like that, you're going to need a DEC title wetlands permit for that, right? If you're not subject to SECRA and you ignore SECRA, the DEC is automatically going to be the lead agency. Now, they're probably not going to require DIS on it, but if you are doing your own SECRA review, you're an involved agency because you actually are the project sponsor. You can become lead agency. I mean, the DEC, I guess, maybe sometime the DEC might say, well, we don't think you should be, but you can theoretically be lead agency on your own project.
Sorry. Trying to shut this off.
Okay. Who's winning the debate?
Yeah.
Didn't start yet, right?
So we would have to come up with a list of what we handle and what action it would fall under.
I think that's probably the first thing. I should go over, I don't know whether I go with France or whatever, we should go over let's say what we've done so far this year, and that's exactly right, Dan. Dan, let's see what kinds of actions we've been taking this year that might be subject to SECRA. Then we can evaluate how many of those could be on the type 2 list, or maybe they're already on a type 2 list. And, then we can figure out, nail it down, figure out how much we're really dealing with. Like, for example, tonight's meeting. You're not taking any actions tonight. You're not doing anything tonight, as far as I know, based on the agenda. You're not doing anything tonight, I don't think, that actually would require a secret determination.
What about the largest clam contest?
Yeah,
Clam's big enough,
if
if it's too big of a clam, you gotta go through SECRA.
That's so low, it's not even on the type 2
public
list.
needs to know those clams go back in the water.
suggested?
That sounds
We
like
don't
a good
sacrifice
idea.
the life of the clam.
Yeah, thanks,
Yeah.
Dan, actually. That's,
Yeah.
We had a
Can I say that?
catch and
I was
release
gonna-
program with the
Very
plan.
educational
you did remind me
discussion tonight.
just now,
Very
yeah.
good. Yeah.
Environmental impact statement on that, you could be
Yeah.
depreciating, diminishing the value.
Oh, my God.
Two more we'll put a small committee together and work with you on it.
Okay.
I definitely want to be on it.
You want to be on it?
Yeah.
One more.
I'll do it.
You're on? Okay, so Diane, Brian, myself, and Pat.
Okay, 4-member committee, all right.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, we hit on the largest clam contest there. I wanted to remind everybody that, before I ran for trustee, I had been to the contest, and I was concerned that the clam, I was like, this is a great large clam, and it's pulled out of the water, and, does it ever get to go back and continue its life in the bay? And luckily I found out that, yes, the clams all get returned to their harbors and get to continue their lives being very large clams. So
'Cause some
no
of them
clams
are
are
like
hurt in the making of the
25
clam.
Story about an
Oh.
alien.
Except for the clam
abduction.
chowder comes, they get hurt.
Yeah.
Except for trustee Brian with binoculars. We can have dinner.
So whoever does pick up the clams should put them in a cooler.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you want to keep it in good shape. It's heavier.
All right. Ready to move on?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, Cranberry Hole, Old Montauk Highway inspection. Somebody was supposed to go there.
Yeah, I did that.
Okay.
Yeah, I have visited the property. I also spoke with the building department, and they pulled the survey. They also visited the site. They made sure all the structures and construction work is away from Old Montauk Highway. They did put in a temporary driveway that they're using to access the property from a different direction. That's very close to the entrance to Old Montauk Highway. And not being a surveyor, I can't say that it's not maybe encroaching a little bit, but I spoke to the contractor also, and they assured me that it is a temporary driveway, that it will be used just during the project, and that they're going to then close off the access that is very close to Old Montauk Highway and return access through the original driveway. And they will be revegetating it, and, you know, it's just a temporary situation. So it doesn't seem to be something that's going to have a long-term impact there, certainly no gate or anything like that. You know, I did get a copy of the survey for Rick. It's waiting at the building department. So he was going to also take a look at it and give it a closer look to make sure that there's no encroachment.
So what happens 100 years from now? There's trustee property that runs through
Napeague State Park.
these people's property, is that right?
No, it's next to it.
Next to it.
It's not on, oh, good.
So
Well, that's good news, what Rick is reporting, that I assume that new gravel driveway, which really looks very close to your right-of-way, I assume that was their new driveway. But if it's temporary, you know, it's,
yeah, no,
Put gravel down on a temporary driveway?
Sounds like they
That's what I was going to say.
Pretty
had a
temporary.
change of heart here, you know.
well, that was the project
That's-
manager that I
yeah.
spoke with, and, you know, he said he'd be happy to meet any of us over there and go over
Who's
it.
the builder?
I have the notes, I don't have them with me, but it's a firm up in Huntington. They specialize in high-end housing projects, and they are doing, I think it's a renovation of the property, and they needed to bring some heavy equipment in from the other side of the
That
property.
makes sense.
Is that the contemporary one on the right-hand side when you go over the bridge?
yep.
Correct.
Okay.
And by the way, I mean, I've been on that property before there was a house there. I've never been in the house, obviously, but that must have a spectacular view of Napeague.
I mean, this temporary driveway, they had to remove vegetation to create it, right?
I believe
Must
so.
have had to, and then they're gonna have to
I'm gonna
pull
stop,
up
stop
Yeah.
back
They
there
did,
again in a
it
couple
was-
weeks.
They'd have to really fix it, they have to pull up the gravel and revegetate it, I guess. I mean, it would
That's what he
overgrow over time, I
described
suppose, but,
would happen. I mean, that's private property where they put the gravel bin.
yeah. All right, I'd hope they would do that, yeah.
But the plan was to revegetate and make sure there was no encroachment.
I
And
wonder who oversees that revegetation, like, you know, how do they decide which plants to use then?
Single-family home, not us.
Yeah, right.
you know,
Yeah,
See,
no,
they might
I'm just
be-
curious,
again.
with that kind of stuff, you know.
If it's a,
I'll look at
Who
the
choose the
survey. I
plants,
mean,
like,
you know, they could, the temporary driveway, it's real close. I mean, it could be in, it could come into your right-of-way, because the trustee right-of-way, I'm not sure if it's 99 feet wide there. But they come to like right where the trustee road, you know what the trustee road is, right? You saw it going down the hill.
Down to the right.
The old original route to Montauk.
Well, it sounds like he's agreeable to make it right.
Yeah.
Right.
Um,
Can we just ask the, who they get a permit from? Building department, planning board?
Building department.
The building department was down there already.
To ensure that, that line of the trustee road is staked out so there's no encroachment when they revegetate.
Yeah, I'll call them
You
again and
understand
ask them to
them.
do a follow-up,
And
and
I'll look at the survey.
Yeah,
Okay, good.
yeah,
I'll report back at the next meeting.
All right.
yeah, that's good.
Okay. Town and Hook Pond updates. Do you guys have copies of this?
No.
You don't, okay.
Yeah, what's going on down there?
The village got a $46,000 grant to do bioswales over by Town Pond. So they're in the process of doing that. That should be about a 3-week project.
And they're doing it in the hook, down hook in the green, you know, too.
That's not to be
Yeah, it was in
confused
the
with
paper,
those
yeah.
rain gardens, right?
Once the bioswales are in, there's supposedly rain gardens going to be designed
Okay.
and incorporated.
In the hopes that it will catch some of the nitrates and phosphates
Right.
and road runoff. and-
I was just wondering how good it'd be at breeding mosquitoes in
Yeah,
the summertime.
Should drain well enough.
I don't know.
It's a good
Tyler,
read,
you're gonna have
but
to
it's
follow
all.
up.
Find out.
I'll go do little surveys and
I can receive the
bioswales.
surveys.
The work that's going on behind the Methodist Church is also in conjunction with,
Goes to Hook Pond.
yeah, okay. There's a lot of work going on there, too.
They seem to have finished that as of today, by the way.
Okay.
They already have grass seed down
Yeah.
on it. They did that like in 2 days.
Yeah, so they'll still there with equipment
Very
digging up
fast.
that trench, and then it's all.
Yeah, it's all, they've sprayed on grass seed as of today.
Okay, they've also completed sediment testing in Town Pond.
Oh, great.
And based on the results of that, they're going to start talking about possible ways to remove the sediment from the pond.
Now,
I saw them about 2 months ago, actually in a boat, taking those samples. And it was estimated prior to that testing that there's about 5 to 6 feet of sludge in there, lack of a better word. So it's a big job. Yeah.
Does it have anything about the sediment testing, that there were, undesirable things found in the sediment?
no results.
Okay.
Then, let's see, they're working to develop a similar sediment testing plan for Hook Pond.
Right.
Village is working with the town to purchase a continuously monitoring system, like Georgica has. Costs about $12,000, and they'll collect data on a continuous basis. And that will be in conjunction with Dr. Gobler's work. And
It does sound on there, like with sediment testing, that whatever results they got, it sounds like they want to remove sediment now, based on the results.
in
In the email that you have there.
Town Pond or Hook Pond?
In Town Pond.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Just saying. So I mean,
But once they know
once they know
what's in there, then they'll figure out
how to do it.
how to do it.
All right.
But have they ever talked to us about it
There was,
in the past?
last year, there were some meetings.
I went to one.
Hook
Yeah.
Pond, yeah, it was the village and some Hook Pond residents and Mr. Lombardo
Yeah, he was
and
there.
trustees, village highway superintendent.
Scott.
And they were, discussing like applying for these grants and doing all these projects. So, yeah, we were definitely in that loop with all
Okay.
those meetings, so you could certainly get in there to be
Oh, but,
more
and we
aware.
recently have been, but I
Okay.
never heard of it before.
Okay, it was
then,
all
and-
just concepts last year,
Well,
so,
now it's real.
yeah.
Okay. And then the village has approved a water quality plan that was provided to the town last month for inclusion into the CPF water quality plan, should the statute amendment pass this November. So they're also getting involved in that. So it's really turned into a consortium.
One of the things I want to mention about Dr. Gobler, he does great work, but I'm thinking, why not, if this CPF money, 20% for water quality passes, instead of us writing these checks to Dr. Gobler, I'd like to see a check come from the town by way of that 20%, that CPF money. Because these waters, although it's our responsibility, belongs to all of us. And just something to think down the road. I mean, if the money's going to be there.
I think in review of the draft proposal, you need to find the section that specifically delineates what that 20% can be used for.
Right.
And find out whether water quality testing fits that criteria or not.
It sounds like it would,
Yeah.
or should, in my opinion, yeah. All right.
We need to work to get that passed.
Yeah, because it's, we don't really have deep pockets, and some of the lawsuits we've had to defend our beaches, it wouldn't take many of them to end up with no money.
I think this proposition is somehow on the back of the ballot.
Okay.
Maybe we need to get a bumper sticker between now and then.
Yeah, we could use more advocacy for it.
Because it'd be
Yeah.
easier.
There's always a lot of letters in the Star and a
When
lot
someone
of.
goes in to vote, it's going to be hard enough this
Right.
time. And by the time they finish voting, whew, let me out of here. And forget to turn the thing over and vote on the
Right.
propositions.
Referendums are usually on the back, right? I remember last time I
It's a new
voted on a
system.
referendum, I think it was on the back of the
Was
ballot,
it?
too. Quite sure. Anyone else remember a referendum on the ballot? I think
I don't remember
there's
it being
one
on the back, but it is
years
this
ago.
time.
I know there are people calling for specifics. that
Yeah,
aren't there
the
yet.
devil can be in the details, as they say.
What do you think, Rick?
So,
Do you think
what exactly it can
could
be used for
possibly
is very
be
important,
used
but
for
it-
water testing fees?
I'll be honest, I haven't really looked closely at the legislation, I mean, the proposed, the the language of the CPF
Well, you
amendment.
can't pack the bag until you do the testing.
You have to
I
find.
mean, again, it's money well spent, don't get me wrong.
Finding out what's there is how you
Because
find out what your
I
problems are.
remember something vaguely like can be
What else,
used to
it has to be.
restore existing problems, but not for new projects. So, mitigate road runoff with a drain at the road end is good, but not,
I mean, I'm pretty sure they're thinking they can do this for private septic systems and things like that, right? That's my understanding.
We know they're going to do good things with it, so let's just help get it passed. We have a month.
Oh, absolutely.
So if we get
I suspect it will pass.
some form of advertising for it, we can
I saw
do our part.
something on Channel 12 News that Suffolk County Health Department has approved an alternative septic system?
Yes,
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah.
it's a good thing, right?
Yeah, they've got a
There's
couple
actually
of,
going to be one in Montauk.
they have a pilot
good.
program going now.
It's,
Good.
just so you know,
Lee White's
it's,
house is
okay.
gonna get one.
it's a step forward, but it's also very complex.
Okay.
Yeah.
You have to sign, first of all, these alternative septic systems require ongoing maintenance. It's not like your
Make
septic system, just put it in the ground and forget about it.
You might want to.
And so you have to have a annual contract, at least a 3-year contract with a maintenance provider to even get approval from the health department. It's fairly complex.
Kind of like water heaters.
Right, I mean,
Well, that's-
hopefully they can make it simpler in time.
Yeah, you gotta have a contract with the
The
annual.
good news here is Suffolk County is finally looking at new
Maintenance
ideas.
agreement.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'll
there are a
make
lot of
sure
designs out
everybody
there.
gets a copy of that.
A lot of designs out there.
Yeah.
Good.
All right. Next, Riptide sign again, all right? Rona left just as.
Covered, we did it.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think we're good there.
No, well, we got a letter from the
Oh.
association. And they're responsible for the beach walkways at Deerfield Beach, Gardner Drive, and Maidstone Drive in the Beach Hampton area. They're requesting permission to post temporary rip current warning signs at the foot of the dunes at each of these access points.
I see.
So, to better educate our community, the association wishes to post the signs in May prior to Memorial Day and remove them by November 1st. The association will be responsible for putting up and taking down the signs each year. We appreciate your efforts in helping to keep our beaches safe.
So they
So-
said they wouldn't put the new ones up till next spring.
It won't be till next spring, so we have time to say
Right.
whether we want them or not, what size we want them.
I think it's an important message, but they should be properly located and properly sized so that they don't obstruct the view, but I
Well,
think,
nobody's physically
be-
seen this,
right,
except
yeah,
in a
let's check it out.
photograph,
I mean,
Yeah, we'll check it out.
You know,
We get some more input.
one quick thing. Okay, I think the signage is appropriate, the location, maybe it could be tucked away closer to the dune lip there, crest. But there's a component to that, and that is a life-saving device that is
Right.
up on that sign.
Right.
So it's not just signage, it's something that somebody could grab and save somebody's life with.
I'm with you, Brian.
Yeah.
very good point, Brian, yeah.
Right. And it's not a memorial on the beach.
It's, well, it was put up as a memorial. Well, we heard the whole story.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I think it was very tastefully done,
Multipurpose.
and it may need to be, off so nobody trips on it. I get it, placement,
Adjust it a little bit.
yeah, tweak it where it goes.
Smashes.
Right.
Yeah, maybe a slighter design to it. Something that's
I still like
a
my
little smaller or something.
idea.
Bring it with
Okay.
them.
Signs,
Yeah, one post with multiple signs going
visuals
down
instead of words.
and pictures.
Garbage. Pick up after your dog. What's some of the
Carry
flyers?
in, carry out.
There you go.
If I could just make one comment along the lines here, and I'm all for the public going back and forth with us, to a degree, but I'm a little confused with the dialogue that we have with the public, like at town board meetings, they listen, the public has a time where they can have a comment, we're very generous, we don't do the 3-minute gig, we let them talk. But I think we just need to be a little thoughtful with regards to this full-blown discussion. We should thank them if somebody has something they want to say, and then, revisit it when we look into it.
by way of committee. Am I making sense?
Yes, you are.
Because it tends to get a little carried away at times, depending upon the topic.
Definitely has that potential.
Yeah, and, you know, I think we can set the tempo on that, so,
That's fair.
yeah.
Thanks, Brian.
I didn't mean to be so serious.
Oh, no.
We've kind of already gone through it,
Yep.
but this came up as a letter now. Committee reports. Aquaponic dredging. Where'd my pen?
New
What's
happening
going
there?
on with that?
Yeah.
Acabonic dredging, the county?
The county wants to get some sand samples of the areas that are done. We're going to try and provide them for them in a week. Okay. I was going to actually try and do it today, but I couldn't.
Could
They
they
don't want me to work
explain
yet.
why they need sand samples
They
of
want
the
to see
sand
what
that
it's,
they took out?
well, they want to see how much silt is involved. You know, how much is sand, how much is silt. I mean, you know, the dredging people basically do it all the time, you know.
Because
They almost always,
kind of dredge they use?
if it's totally silt, they have to just, it depends on where you can put it. But you give them the sample and they're happy, that's usually what happens. So get it to,
So, not another way to just postpone.
Yeah.
Yeah, and don't forget,
I'm with Diane.
last time,
With her.
Right, I
the
want to get
last time the
done.
county said it didn't warrant Acabonic Harbor being dredged because there wasn't enough boat activity. The problem was, it was too narrow and too
So
shallow
of
for
course
the
there
boats
was.
to use it. So that, please don't use that excuse again.
Well, they're
It's
not
a good
saying that
excuse,
this
though.
time,
Eventually, you
right?
wouldn't have to dredge anything.
Did
At least we're
Ed
past that, and
ever
we're up
do
to the point of
depth
taking samples or
soundings?
something. It sounds like they're past that, at least, if they're
no, I
going to go
think
ahead
I
and
think
collect
they're
samples, right?
looking, they're looking to go closer to the
Don't dredge, there
launching
won't be
ramp.
boat traffic, there won't be boat traffic, you don't have to dredge.
And right, if it's too silty, then one would use a different kind of dredge, right? That's the.
If it's too
thing
silty,
here.
you got to put it some, you know, it's not going to be
And-
too
and the
silty. I
sand,
mean,
right.
it's, you know, all the stuff down there is almost positively sand because that's what falls in there, and there's always been sand in the past. But, you know, we'll give them a sample and they're really happy.
Okay, great.
Okay, 190 beaches.
Can I do an Acabonic thing while we're here? I just have a quick, I wanted to talk about Pussy's Pond.
Yeah.
Just share the update that Zach gave us. So we have a update from Zach
Actually-
Cohen from the,
Go ahead. Zach was told it was too, I mean, he got that to us this afternoon, and it was way too late for the agenda. And
yeah,
he
all
was
right.
told that.
yeah, that's fair. I just thought I have some info here, and I would just say real quick what's
Okay,
happening with the
real
project
quick.
there. Okay. Because I couldn't be here, and he just gave this to us, but they're doing a restoration project at Pussy's Pond, you know, with the, I guess, Natural Resources and Cornell, I think, are working together on it. Basically, it is trying to get the marsh area of the pond back to what it used to be, because it's kind of, the water is encroached in, and basically as you know, seas rise and as water bodies get a little more full of water, there's often not enough time for the marsh to silt enough and create enough silt and land to keep it substantial. So they're going in and doing kind of core log fibers on, fiber logs on the end with revegetation, and going to make some trails through the park area there to give kids from the school more access to the pond and the nature there, to see the ecosystems there. And so they have some fencing up around there, which the fencing should be up there until summer, you know, pending the establishment of the plants there. And there might be additional fencing, which could include streamers, and those would be more to deter the waterfowl from getting into the area. I guess the colored streamers kind of deter them. So that's the reason if people see streamers on the fences there, and they'll be probably up till next summer. Then the additional plants are going to be planted mid-October, and there are already some plants that were seeded in the core logs in the bioswales and have already been emerging. So teachers there can engage students in the area. So it's coordinated with the PRB project too, but there's a second install of a permeable reactive barrier in the area, which will be kind of on the side of the pond by the blacksmith shop. And they're supposed to remove the Phragmites there in a bowl-shaped section and install a kind of a floating permeable reactive barrier, not the kind in the ground so much like the other ones we've seen, but I think it's more of a round floating type. I heard about it at the benefit of the Acabonic Protection Committee, and Kim Shaw was there to give us an update on the PRBs as well, so that kind of ties together with that. So the whole area should be, a lot more accessible, and hopefully the Phragmites removal will increase the view too, and they may be removing the Phragmites by Old Stone Highway by the bridge there, so you can see across the pond to the Pussy's Pond Bridge. So it sounds like a nice project that should help capture, nutrients that might go into the pond there through the bioswales, and also help give kids a place to enjoy nature by the school there.
Okay. Could I ask you, just when you speak to the Nature Preserve Committee on this, there's a bench on the blacksmith side of the pond. It was installed by the trustees in remembrance of a trustee. So it should have a plaque on it. And I would like to make sure that bench remains, doesn't have to be in the exact spot, but it should remain at that pond somewhere.
That bench
Does
is
it
in
have a
good shape.
plaque on it?
I sat on it the other day. Seriously, yeah.
You did? Okay.
Yeah, it's
in
good.
good
It's in good condition.
Okay.
And I don't remember seeing anything on the bench. I think I saw something on the ground.
Okay.
I'll have to take another look.
Yeah.
There's some kind of memorial plaque.
Yes, yep,
I remember seeing an anchor on it or something.
Yes, yeah, Captain John Collins.
That's it, yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
The day it was initiated, whatever, the little ceremony they had there, all the trustees were on that side of the pond. I was on the other side, the School Street side, with my 3 kids, because they had chicken pox. I couldn't take them, so I was watching.
And this was your uncle, right?
Yes,
Oh,
yeah.
neat, yeah.
Yeah, so,
Here's some photos if anyone wants to see them.
yeah, it's
think we all
cute.
got this.
It's a nice, pretty area, such a nice area, yeah. So glad the school
Okay.
kids can go there.
That'll help.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Bridges and
Yeah,
All right, beaches,
Okay.
199 Lily Pond Lane. There was a ZBA hearing in the village on this past Friday.
I didn't
None of
go.
us attended, no.
Yeah,
So I guess we'll
we'll have to
wait
see
and
what that was about.
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Beach cleanup, that's Tyler, you started that last week.
Yeah, I'm working on developing a resolution for us to do that, but I'm still, deciding which exact beaches to use and, how to rotate through the schedule of beaches. But the idea is that we would pick, a reasonable amount of spots that are like public access points and do a trustee-led cleanup around those access areas on beaches that do, accumulate some garbage on them in the summer, to help engage the public and work with the public to clean up these spaces together, instead of being like, okay, the government's going to do everything for you, or instead of being like, hey, people have to do everything themselves, kind of work together to really keep the beaches a little cleaner. So I'm still developing kind of the strategy, and I'll email everyone this week with my options, and hopefully by next meeting I'll have a definite resolution to propose.
Okay. Sounds good.
We wouldn't start until next spring probably anyway, so.
Really, I thought it would be in December, and we'd be picking up the beach.
I'm going to pick it up just, okay, I'll get
All right.
December beach cleanup.
Georgica, Phragmite Control Apps, 1 Association Road. Anything new?
I don't believe we've heard from them in a while, One Association Road or the Ackerman project, so their status quo, I believe, at the moment. I was over at the Popcorn property today.
Okay.
I spoke with the agent and went over there. The dock is complete. I have some photography to email over to Lori for the file, which contains the application for the permits, the original survey, the executed permit, and the notice of completion and the as-built survey. And in roughly measuring the dock dimensions when I was there, it seems to match up with the survey. If anyone would like to look at the prior or as-built, they are here tonight if anyone would care to look at them.
Are both structures referred to as docks in the permits from us, or were they referred to as structures?
I believe they were referred to as docks.
Yeah.
Let's take a look.
I remember there was some question on that, because they're such a funky size.
Just the permit for dock construction.
Dock or deck? I don't forget.
Cover letters referring to docks.
Docks,
Place
okay.
Shoreline structure using cedar posts and braces with mahogany platform and railings.
Okay.
So it is referred to as a 9 by 18 shoreline structure in the permit.
In the permit. So it's a structure, not a dock, which means it wouldn't have a boat tied to it.
At the moment, there is no dock tied up to it.
Survey has dock.
Survey shows us a
Survey,
dock.
so maybe you might want to have that changed.
I mean, a dock is a shoreline structure,
It is,
so
yes,
it's just a squares and rectangles kind of thing,
yeah.
Just like-
Yeah.
if you know what I mean.
Trying to think why we made
Squares
that
or rectangles?
distinction. Type 1 or type 2.
It's a type 3 decision.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure why it
So,
would.
yeah, it's like, what's the
Application
word?
entitled
Semantics?
Popcorn dock reconstruction. The
Okay.
trustee permit refers to it as the popcorn dock reconstruction.
Okay, okay,
So I think it's pretty clear.
okay.
So, I'd like to make a motion that we close this out.
Okay.
Second?
What's the motion?
Yeah,
That we close out this.
Close out the popcorn dock permit.
yeah.
Got
Yeah.
a second, right?
Yeah.
All right, if
All
you
in
feel it's
favor?
all in.
Aye.
Maybe
Okay.
just, I'm sorry, just revise it to say all conditions of the permit have been met instead of close out. That way.
Yeah.
So,
No, that's our
Clean
standard,
it
That's
up.
our
that's our
standard,
standard
yeah.
language.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
all conditions of the permit are
Right,
met.
yeah, yeah. Thank you.
And you have a motion to make that so, and
Yes.
seconded?
Yeah.
And I'm all in favor, or?
All
Yeah.
in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Only one's in favor? Two?
I'm
Yeah.
We all are.
Okay.
It's okay.
We're with you.
Trust Rick on this one?
MMR Real Estate Holdings. Understanding of intent received. Oh, here it is. Do you have a copy of that, Rick?
MMR, understand, no, I do not have a copy of that, Francis. I don't believe I do, unless it's,
I wouldn't embarrass you, and I think you know that, but how is it that you have a couple of these things that we don't have? I mean, I'd like to be privy to what we're talking about.
Right, well, these are committees, so
Oh, okay,
he
all
should
right.
have it. I don't know if he does.
All right, that's true, I stand corrected. If it's committee.
He's hoarding them.
I don't think he
I
is.
must apologize, I don't believe I have that, Francis.
All right.
Okay.
It's
We'll
very
get you a
possible it
copy.
was emailed.
You can look at it, we'll get you a copy.
All right.
Okay. All right. Then I have here. This is just, that's just some of the paperwork for the dredging app.
Oh, so it's a Georgica pond issue? Okay.
Harbor management?
Yes, harbor management. We had a great meeting last week with the existing members of the Harbor Management Committee, with Adam M.A. and Will Plitt. They're both interested in staying on the committee and moving forward. They enjoy their roles as more field observation and reporting members, and I think they'd like to continue in that capacity.
Great.
There have been some concerns raised about proper insurance coverage for our harbor committee. So Francis and I have been meeting with members of the town board and town attorney and insurance agents for the town, and making sure that we have proper coverage, so if these gentlemen are out in the field doing work and something happens, they have proper coverage.
That's good.
So we should have that wrapped up in the near future, but it's an important research project to make sure everyone's protected. Mr. Michaels was also at the meeting, and he will be providing safety training for the Harbor Management Committee and for all of us as trustees. So as we do field work, we're
Oh, good.
complying with the safety standards of the overall town program. And you may actually have some safety equipment that we'll be able to use when we're out in the field. So
Nice.
that was a nice development.
Yeah.
And we're hoping to start that safety training at the next Harbor Management Committee meeting. So that should be taking place in October. And I think, given that all the insurance is in place, we'll be starting with some work on doing a field survey on the duck blind permits and locations of the duck blinds sometime in early November. In addition to that, I met with some members of the Lionhead and Clearwater Beach community, and they've expressed an interest in having a member of their community participate on the Harbor Management Committee.
Great.
They've, for I think about the past 12 years, have done some, I don't know if you call it dredging, but some excavating projects, and they're looking to maybe develop a management plan for Hog Creek, maybe doing some more environmental dredging. Tyler, it might be a nice opportunity for you to work with them and help them develop a plan for the harbor.
Yeah, I'd love to do that with them, yeah.
And then I know that there's another member from the Napeed community that has expressed interest
Yeah.
in joining the Harbor Management Committee. So I'd like to develop a list of new members, and if there's anyone out in the public that would like to consider their participation, please contact the office. And I'd like to bring these new members to the board, maybe as early as the next meeting, to see what everyone thinks about their participation.
Great.
So that's the most recent update.
Do Adam and Will have harbors that they're already focusing on?
You know, they're looking to really do the field work that would
Tell me
cover
what they've
more than
been
one harbor. If we did want to have some more specific ownership, you know, I think, you know, they're close to heart, maybe 3 Mile Accabonac, you know, but I would leave that up to them if they wanted to choose.
Okay, great.
You
This
know,
sounds like we could have, you know, hopefully somebody for Hog Creek, like you're saying, and somebody for Napeed, and then, you know, Adam and Will could maybe
Yeah.
represent Accabonac and 3 Mile
Yeah.
Harbor. Or
Yeah, I'd probably give
go
those
back to the
guys
initial-
first choice, as they're the legacy members. But yeah, I think having someone
Yeah,
that's
has to have a
representative
representative for each one.
would be a good idea. So I'm going to keep everyone posted as this progresses and give another update.
Do you know exactly when the next meeting is going to be? Is it the same?
Sometime mid-October. We're trying to get a common.
Wednesday, is it usually?
It may end up being Wednesdays only because of potential conflicts with other meetings, and
Okay.
so it'll either be Wednesday or Thursday night.
Okay.
I'll try and get a standard schedule going for that, if someone else would care to join in.
I'd like to come to one if I can, I just, to see
Sounds good.
when it is, so I can see if I can be there.
Sounds good.
You know the situation in North, Diane, I'm going to need your help here. The situation in Northwest where sailboats, some sailboats of a certain size can get moorings and others can't, based on something very old, like,
Well, then,
Well, they had a
if any
head
of
on
them's
it.
left, you know, maybe one or two.
no, not for now.
Right,
Maybe
yeah.
Harbor Management
Yeah.
could look at that whole thing
Right.
and set up some new criteria.
New criteria?
Yeah.
Well, they were grandfathered, that's what it is. They were grandfathered a long time.
No, I mean going into the future.
Yeah.
There
Well, I think-
seemed to be some,
Well, the thinking was that if boats were bigger and had a head on board, that they should be in a harbor that has a pump-out boat. And that was part of the criteria to selecting what size could be
Yeah.
in a smaller harbor.
Right. That's what I
But
was-
tackle standards, certificates of insurance,
okay.
there's
well,
other,
that's-
there's other considerations that
that's
I think
solved.
could be applicable and helpful to the overall safety of the
Okay.
mooring field.
All right, thank you. Good information.
Yeah, we have tackle considerations and stuff in large boats. So, yeah, all of this stuff, every 10 years, it's not a bad idea to take a look at it.
And then the last area was just the interest in working with Montauk and Sag Harbor. If there's any common ground, I know Jim was interested in trying to work with Montauk, and
Yeah,
we've had discussions with Sag Harbor, so that'll probably continue as well.
in Montauk, we've always had a good relationship.
Okay, in connection with that whole insurance issue, somehow the trustees got lost between the cracks. Ed Michaels is the safety officer, and PERMA, which is the insuring company of town employees, of which you're considered since your pay comes from the town, requires a certain amount of workplace safety training. Most of it is just a fairly quick face-to-face with Ed, and then the rest of it is online. You view videos and answer some questions at the end, but we're all required to do it.
Fair?
Okay, so that's going to be coming up in the near future.
Okay, thanks.
Napeed launching ramp repair,
Yeah, I think they've surveyed it.
yep, we got a bill.
I have something I'd like to say about the parking lot in front of it. I want to thank Mr. Glennon for the work that he did. It's amazing that there's no holes down there. You know, that was such a nightmare for such a long time. But, you know, he graded it, he used those shells that were there, and he threw some sand down. I got to tell you something, I was down there the other day, 4 months later,
Still holding up?
it's holding up.
That's great.
And I'm happy to say that, because they were some really deep craters. Yeah, that was a good job. And then the other thing I just wanted to mention, a few people asked me about the culvert on Girard Drive. When is that going to be opened up?
Well, we have data coming from Dr.
Yeah, I
Goldberg.
did share a few
Oh,
emails
okay.
with Dr. Gobler.
Yeah.
And, you know, he is of the opinion that enhanced flushing is a good thing for all the water bodies that he's studied, and feels it would probably be applicable to Accabonac. You know, there are some folks that feel there may be some issues with silting, and that the culvert may close, so it's a cost of doing business. But I think environmentally speaking, opening the culvert is a good thing. I think most people feel that way, but some people have expressed concerns.
So we had discussions with him about repurposing some of the data collection buoys and stuff like that to do it, and coordinating it so that when it's open.
So he has
Does it make
baseline
more,
data.
does it make more sense, Bill, to do it in the springtime?
I would
After
think-
all the
Yeah, but we
inundation?
have to apply for the permit yet.
Yes,
so-
right, okay.
I mean-
That will take a while.
We had discussion, we had a discussion with George Hammereth, and he said, you know, since they permitted us to build it, they would be hard pressed not to let us clean it out,
Maintain it,
you
yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So I don't think we're gonna have huge hassles with the DEC.
But once we have the report from Gobler, then that will be
We wanna
incorporated.
have some baseline data before we
Yeah,
do it,
that's-
so.
The main issue is we don't want to open it without having baseline data, or else who
Yeah,
knows
the
how
baseline data is
helpful it
being
is.
collected.
Right.
So,
And I think we wanna be shooting for next March.
He's finished, right, with the, in there? It's just a matter of,
Yeah, he
putting
did
it
additional
together for us.
testing this year.
Right.
He's putting together the results for
right,
us in a memo.
Okay, good.
And then we should be able to apply. And he did, you know, state that the only way to really measure the benefits are to open it for a year and see how it does. And, you know, if you have to open it every year, not unlike the cut, flush it and enhance the flushing, then
Yeah,
that's what it is.
I think it's going to be favorable myself.
yeah, it seems like a
I'm
good
sure that
idea.
he would.
Yeah, based on what Larry Penny, you know, what little time he had to study before he retired, it was favorable.
But we checked, the last time we opened it up, there was an improvement in one of the DEC data points close by,
Okay.
with the, you know, with the colorful count was a little low, yeah.
Now, I mean, can't we get some of that data from the DEC?
Yeah, it's
They have some Data
available.
on that, and so
Yeah,
that
that's-
can help influence our decision. And what about
Yeah.
natural resources? Because I know that
It's
there's
probably, you know,
an opinion there that it's not the best idea to open it.
I don't think
Do
that,
they have any data that we can see to kind
I
of?
don't, you know, I think a lot of the discussion is coming from some people that live around the harbor.
Right.
Yeah, no, I've
Brought it
heard
to
that.
the
Yeah.
attention.
I don't think we're going to have
Talk
to
to
go
one of them,
there.
yeah.
I think with Dr. Gobler's report,
Yeah,
I
okay.
think that will be enough.
No, it is. Just love to work with
We
everyone else
just want
in
to make
this
sure we have
process.
the right scientific data before we do it.
Yeah, I agree. That's my concern.
It's probably, you know, I mean, if it turns out, you know,
I mean, the one
it's
major
going to be an
effect,
ongoing thing, whether we're going to keep opening it every year, is the way it
Yeah.
looks, so.
it'll make that part of the harbor more tidal, and then it will have more, changes in
Trying to get the right
water level
timing,
as the
you want
tide's
to get
coming
it
out
as
there as we do
close
now.
to April, you know, you want to get it done
Yeah.
as close.
And
to-
it's storm-driven, you know, if you get a really bad storm, from the north, I guess, or,
Yeah,
you know, it could, northeast, it could close it up faster, it could last months and months and months. But, you know, I think the last time we had it cleaned out, you know, it lasted a while, but eventually it does
You get
get
the right
packed up
one
again.
storm. This-
Yeah,
Oh, you go out and look at the sand that's off that beach on the outside. I mean, there's miles
I know.
of water that's a foot deep, you know. So,
Okay.
All right, administrative, payment of the bills. One Beacon Insurance, $6,338, and also $3,238 for the pump-out boats. New York State Insurance Fund, $434.82 for workers' comp. The Hartford, $291.38. New York
statutory disability annual statement. Mike DeSuno and Sons, $2,000 for trying to open the pond on Labor Day. Sabrick and Murray, $1,445, survey of the launching ramp in Lazy Point. Lori, is there a quote here for the shellfish tags? Because there's no numbers on them here. Quote for shellfish tags, 10,000 of them cost, wow, $1,914.60, or $20,301.20, plus freight of $155. So what do you, how many are you asking for? I mean, it's a quote. You put in quote for 10,000 and 20,000. What we usually get?
We usually get 20,000, just the last one. It will last probably 2-3 years.
Want to just do a motion to pay the bills and then?
Well, this is a quote. It's not a bill yet.
All right.
All right, so we can stop at Savick and Murray. Can I have a motion to pay those bills?
I'll make a motion to pay the bills.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so now we go to the quote. Is this where you always get them?
Have to.
Okay, yes.
That's fine.
Okay, so 20,000?
If that's what we normally get, yeah.
It's a better deal, right? You get more at once, you
We
get.
accept the price of the $20,000.
Yes.
Box of
And this is the type of permit that I think might be advantageous for kayaks going forward, because it's waterproof.
Yes.
We could use maybe a permanent marker to put a year on it or something, if that's possible. Lori could check. But it's a type of material that might work.
And by the way, the markers, after a while in the sun,
Yeah, they
They
fade.
do.
Are these
That's
plastic?
why we did different colors
Yeah,
a
that
couple
would be good.
years.
We might be able to get a different kind of a
Can't do
punch.
that. Yeah, this
Right.
is shellfish.
Punch with different shapes?
No,
I don't know
no.
how they'd be.
That would be okay, too. Yeah.
Is it plastic? You can make a triangle for 2,000.
Yeah, it's a plastic tag with the kind of
Square for,
feed one thing into the.
you know, I mean, something, yeah.
Yeah.
Like a shamrock with a,
Maybe
This
Right.
is just a shellfish tag
Yeah.
wire.
Oh, yeah, the wire ones, right, I see.
And it's flimsy.
So we're going to talk about different ones for duck
bass
lines.
tags or something. like
Duck
that.
lines is just a laminated, we just laminated permit.
We're
Yeah.
going to tag everything. We're going to
Fences,
tag
blinds.
everything that stands still long enough for us to tag it.
So we're gonna,
All right. Can we move on? Okay.
Yeah, we'll-
Uh,
Are we accepting that quote?
We're making a motion to get the shellfish tags.
To accept?
Yes.
Pat did,
Okay.
and Tyler seconded.
And we're all in
We
favor.
all said aye.
Okay. We're going to put the minutes for August 8th aside till the next meeting, if that's okay. Financial report
Myself.
for August 31st. Has everybody had a chance to look at them?
Yeah, I had an
Any comments?
Yeah, I had an opportunity to look at it, and I always go for the big changes, like annual dock fees are down 5,000. Is that normal?
Because we didn't get them from East Hampton Point.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Yeah. Grants, I understand, we're down 9,000, so that tells me we didn't necessarily apply for a grant that we did maybe the year before. Is that right?
We got one of the pump
I don't know.
The pump-out boat comes later.
Okay.
I think we just haven't received it at this point.
Well, that's true. We got like $10,000, didn't we?
yeah, that's probably the difference right there.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, and,
Those were the only questions I had, and thank you for answering them.
okay, and Norwalkie, I have not approached them yet, but I will try to do that this coming week.
I would make a motion then that we accept the
Financial report,
financial report.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, report of the clerk, again, the largest clam contest this Sunday from 12 to 3.
Yep, October 2nd.
Be there, be square.
Yep.
We need,
Block, right? Is that what time you're saying?
Well, we need to be there
Yeah.
at 10 o'clock to start setting up.
What
Okay.
time is the contest, actually?
12 to 3.
On Sunday?
We also need trustees to pick up the entry clams and entry boxes on Sunday morning at the seafood shops. Any volunteers?
I can do the Amagansett ones.
Oh,
I
and
believe Jim is
Jim's daughter
gonna,
is
yeah,
gonna drop off
That's right.
the Montauk.
the Gosman one.
Yeah,
So at least
so just Wayne Scott,
I can do that.
anybody can do that.
Oh, good.
Great.
And I got the chairs, I mean, the tables and the ice, and if you have an extra cooler, please bring it
Okay.
with soda and water.
Okay, we're still looking for 2 people to open clams.
We didn't hear back from Joey Walker? I'm surprised, all right.
Did you reach out to, oh, God, you mentioned them earlier today.
I contacted quite a few.
Okay,
3 baymen, and they're not available.
okay.
Anybody out there who's willing to open clams for the contest, we could
Contact
use and
the
appreciate your
trustees.
help.
Give him your cell number,
Call the office.
Okay.
1-800-CLAM.
So trustees at 10 o'clock to set up, and we're all responsible to be there. Okay. Last thing on the report is October 10th, our next meeting is actually Columbus Day.
Oh, right.
So do we want to change the day?
Is town closed? Town hall?
Yes.
Yeah.
Meet at the trustee office.
Do we want
Trustee
to?
office is closed, and Lori's not here that day either.
Just bump it a week. Just go to
Yeah.
next Monday when we can meet here.
The following Monday?
I'll have to check to make sure this is available, because I'm not sure if someone else is using it the weeks we aren't.
Yeah,
Okay.
LTV also called today and asked about it.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll find out tomorrow,
If this one is occupied, we can meet at the office just for the once.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Okay.
Yep.
Then we'd have 2 meetings in a row, wouldn't we? We'd have
2
a
weeks.
We'd have a
2
meeting
weeks
next
in a
week.
row, yes.
Would we want to bump that other meeting up or something, or do we
I
have
don't
one of
think
those?
so.
No, just 2 weeks in
Then
a
you're
row?
throwing that all
Yeah.
open.
Yeah, yeah,
There's
yeah.
always
No,
going
no,
to
no.
be a,
Yeah.
Well, there are other spots where we go
Yeah.
2 weeks without meetings sometimes, but I don't think we have one of those coming up, because I think it's every 3 months that happens usually.
yeah. Okay,
All right.
We're talking about?
10th.
October
Okay.
10th.
All right. Anybody have anything else? We have correspondence. We can put copies in your boxes. Oh, the final aerial larvicide notice. Did you see that?
Yeah,
Final one?
Yep, the
Vector
final.
Control's doing their final,
Nice if it
run
was
over
the
of the
final.
local wetlands here.
It looks like they hit
They're doing all 3
everything.
spots.
Yeah.
They said after the full moon, high tides, there was a lot of flooding. They are, urging people to remove standing water, of course, because the Asian tiger mosquito is the one that, people are mostly worried about for good reason. So removing standing water can still be a way to deter mosquitoes in your property even this time of year.
So it's
But they are-
cold as gotten.
Yeah, I mean, there's still some popping out. But it's definitely the end of the season for mosquitoes now. And
They really have, like, really cute little jackets they wear.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
But yeah, they're doing Napeague, Beach Hampton, and Ecobonic Harbor this week
Motion to close.
for the last time this year.
Okay, do I have a motion to close?
So moved.
Yep.
Second? All in favor?
Aye. Oh,
Oh, I knew he'd just spot it.
Health Division decision?
Oh, we didn't talk about that earlier. No. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, we're still open.
We might just address it very quickly.
Yeah.
You got any hard questions, we'll have to go into executive. Mike passed around a copy of the decision.
Yes.
Okay? If you want to read it, you ain't gonna learn much.
Right.
It's one of those decisions that's very annoying because it's an appellate division decision. Just to back up for a second, this is the decision on the town's motion for summary judgment on the Napeague Beach litigation. A summary judgment motion is when one party claims, look, all the facts are in, the essential facts are not disputed by the parties. On these facts, I must win under the law. So you have to have a situation in which all the relevant facts are really agreed to or admitted to by both sides, and there's nothing that is a triable fact. In other words, no pertinent fact that you'd have to leave for a judge or a jury to decide. So the town made a motion for summary judgment. It was denied by the Supreme Court, and meaning that we had to go to trial. And while we proceeded to go to trial, the town and the trustees also appealed the denial of the summary judgment motion. And that was heard on an expedited basis by the appellate division. So if you remember, early last summer, we had an argument at the appellate division, and earlier this summer, and then we also had the trial almost at the same time. So we held the trial. The purpose of the summary judgment motion is essentially to avoid having the trial in the first place. And that didn't occur because the trial went forward. You could theoretically still win on summary judgment and negate the outcome of the trial. But what the court found basically is that we were not entitled to summary judgment. There were several issues. It's an extremely boring and short decision because the court doesn't mention any of the facts. And I'm not saying that to say that there's anything wrong with the decision or that they reached the wrong result, but it's really all legalese because they don't even discuss the actual facts, and therefore they don't divulge very much of their reasoning. What they say basically is, well, the trustees in the town failed to show as a matter of law that the deeds into the plaintiffs, the people who claimed to own the beach, were invalid. Secondly, we claimed to show as a matter of law that under some reservation in a clause, they don't even tell me which reservation they're referring to, we have the right to let third parties, meaning the general public, drive on the beach. And finally, what Tony Tolo thought our strongest argument was the laches argument. Laches is shorthand for an unreasonable delay in bringing a lawsuit, all right? If you knew you had a problem 20 years ago and the statute of limitations was whatever it was, 6 years or something, well, you should have brought the lawsuit within 6 years. Tony seemed to feel that was a fairly strong argument. The appellate division, unfortunately, did not agree. They said, well, it's a continuing wrong. In other words, they're not alleging that the plaintiffs aren't just alleging that something was done wrong to them in 1994 or 1992, whenever the beaches section chapter of the code was amended or put in the code, but they're saying that the wrong is still continuing. So, bottom line is the appellate division agrees that we should not have received summary judgment motion. That essentially means it was correct to go forward with the trial, and now we wait on the result of the trial. We don't have that decision yet. So I wouldn't say this was unexpected. It's not surprising. Maybe it could have gone differently. I would have liked to see a little bit more, fuller discussion of why the appellate division reached its results. A little more, fuller discussion of the facts. But we didn't get that. So, we'll have a decision hopefully very soon on the results of the summer's trial. Yeah, that's it.
Motion to close.
Thanks, Rick. I'll make a motion to close the meeting.
All in favor?
Well, I just want to let you all know that unfortunately I won't be at the Clam Contest on Sunday.
Oh, okay.
I'm actually going to be in Wellsboro, Pennsylvania. My son is getting married on that Saturday.
Oh, cool.
So I won't be there, but I wish you all the best of luck and a lovely day.